The UN voted, the General Assembly voted overwhelmingly to condemn President Trump and America for recognizing reality, for recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. And there are even some nations that in the past have abstained from voting against Israel, but this time they joined in overwhelmingly. Is the UN fulfilling prophecy? This is being reported around the world. Look at this headline from The Guardian, the UK's Guardian. UN votes resoundingly to reject Trump's recognition of Jerusalem as capital. It says this was a stinging rebuke to America. And remarkably, only 9 nations total voted against this. So Israel and the United States, of course, voted against this. And look at the other nations that voted against this. Who would even think of it? Togo? Micronesia? Where are these? Find these nations to be on the map, right? Nauru? Palau, if I'm pronouncing them right. Marshall Islands? Guatemala? And Honduras? That's it? Why do I say that the UN might be fulfilling prophecy? Why do I even ask the question? I was in Africa, in Mombasa, Kenya in 1989. I was at a meeting in a city which dominated by Muslims then and many Christians as well, but a strong Muslim presence. And there were tens of thousands of people gathered for gospel meetings. And an evangelist was preaching a powerful message. And he was telling the people the Bible is God's inspired word. And he used as an example the city of Jerusalem. And he went to Zechariah 12 and he went to Zechariah 14. And he said, it says there that all nations of the earth will be united against Jerusalem, will come against Jerusalem, come against Judah and Jerusalem. And he said, look, that is the one city that is attacked by the whole world and criticized and rejected by the whole world. And lo and behold, now we fast forward to 2017 and the UN actually votes on this. Now, come on, look at the timing. 1967 is when Jerusalem came back into Jewish hands, an undivided Jerusalem. And the wall, there used to be an exterior wall outside the temple, that back in Jewish hands after being separated from 1948 to 1967, a reunified Jerusalem. This was a major event. Now, 50 years later, for the first time, a superpower recognizes Jerusalem as Israel's capital, and the nations of the world join together almost as one, 128 nations saying, we condemn this vote, and about 36 abstaining, and then 9 total voting against it. You've got an overwhelming vote against. Is this fulfilling prophecy? Because the prophetic scriptures indicate that at the end of the age, all nations will come against Jerusalem. To me, even if it's not a specific fulfillment of prophecy, in other words, this act is not written in the Bible, it is symbolic of what we can expect. The nations of the world, whether it means every single nation or a coalition of nations or the vast number of nations coming against Jerusalem, here we see it right in front of our eyes. Now, what did our UN ambassador, Nikki Haley, have to say about this? Is she discouraged by it? Is President Trump hanging his head because the nations have come against us and come against Israel? Listen to what Nikki Haley had to say.
The United States will remember this day in which it was singled out for attack in the General Assembly for the very act of exercising our right as a sovereign nation. We will remember it when we are called upon to once again make the world's largest contribution to the United Nations. And we will remember it when so many countries come calling on us, as they so often do, to pay even more and to use our influence for their benefit. America will put our embassy in Jerusalem. That is what the American people want us to do. And it is the right thing to do. No vote in the United Nations will make any difference on that. But this vote will make a difference on how Americans look at the UN and on how we look at countries who disrespect us in the UN. And this vote will be remembered. Thank you.
Good job, Nikki Haley. I am proud of you. And on a day like today, I am especially proud to be an American, and I'm proud of our president on a day like today as well. We are saying to the UN, you are also a bunch of hypocrites because we remember world history. Where was the UN's condemnation over Tiananmen Square? Where was the UN's condemnation when Saddam Hussein was gassing to death tens of thousands of Kurds? Where's the UN been with the slaughter in Syria? Where's the UN been with the genocidal attack on Christians in the Middle East to wipe them out? Where has the UN been? And why does the UN constantly condemn Israel and the Jewish people? It is part of the hypocrisy of the UN. It is good for America to stand up to the UN. It is good to expose their hypocrisy and say, you want all this money from us and all you nations, you want us to help you? It's one thing to say we disagree with your decision. It's one thing to say we ourselves will not be moving our embassies to Jerusalem, but to have a vote of the General Assembly, and the whole purpose of that vote is to condemn America's decision. That's when you are publicly disrespecting us, scorning the wishes of the people, and scorning reality, because I remind you, Jerusalem is the functioning capital of Israel, and Jerusalem has never been the capital of a place called Palestine.